of this recurring. And then on top of that now, in the global world, in this world which has changed as a result of the phenomenon of terrorism and the response to it, there is a great difference as to what is this phenomenon of terror. In the West, there's a tendency to say terror and terrorism are such evils that there is no purpose in discussing what the causes of it is. We need to combat it, and anyone who wants to get into the discussion of root causes is actually in a way condoning this phenomenon and is really sort of, you know, not coming across as being positive. Hedging, and Pakistan is always accused of being hedging. On the other hand, not only Pakistan but many other countries in the world say, like everything in the universe except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, every phenomenon has a cause, including terrorism. And what are its causes? And how much does injustice or perceived injustice, how much does poverty, how much does deprivation, how many of these things sort of also play a role? And when it comes to Afghanistan, when it comes to the Middle East, when it comes, unless those issues are also addressed and you provide a context, we will always be having this problem. So there's going to be a difference of point of view here. Now coming to the small, America is focused on Afghanistan. Pakistan's salience has increased again. We are extremely important. Simultaneously, we are an indispensable asset as well as seen to be a problem. You know, if you read Bob Woodward's book on Obama's wars, Pakistan is seen to be where the cancer of terror is located. Pakistan is seen to be an indispensable and a dishonest partner, using the words that are there in the book.
But in the same book, he accuses that the Pentagon as well as the White House and Capitol Hill, they fail to comprehend the real crux of the problem.
They do, but the image of both countries on a government-to-government basis, we're extremely important for each other, policy making, intellectual. But on a popular level, the image of Pakistan in the United States and the image of the United States in Pakistan has a lot to be desired. And we have to work on that. And one of the things that Pakistan needs to be doing is to stand up to the United States and inform them where we feel fundamental flaws in their policies exist. I believe the policy that they're following towards Afghanistan, which has spillover effects on Pakistan, is fundamentally flawed. Now, very often big powers don't listen to smaller countries and all, but now we have an obligation to point that out, because I believe neither counterterrorism nor counterinsurgency is likely to bring stability and peace to Afghanistan, the consequences of which come over to us, then we get blamed in the process and all. So this is very relevant now, because in December a review is coming up.
Absolutely. In fact, I'll be coming to that. Let's take another aspect. For example, the $2 billion that has been promised to the military. The time frame is 2012 to 2016. How do you feel about it? And especially now that the price of the hardware has been escalated, F-16s and the helicopters are going to cost much more.
No, I don't think it includes the F-16s at all. Yes, there is something to do with the F-16s in terms of the upgrade kits, etc. But essentially, it's all related to mostly related to the army in terms of the helicopters, in terms of the night vision goggles, etc., etc.
But PGMs are a problem
PGMs, you know, yes, some LGB kits. Now remember, it's all in the foreign military finance head, which actually means that the government of the US or the DSCA there.
Well, actually, my question is about the time frame.
Right. So that again, you know, the 4 years, 2012 to 2016, is a time frame that a lot of things will happen in between. You have elections coming up in the month of November. You don't know what shape the House will take, and more likely that it perhaps might go Republican rather than stay Democratic. If that is the case, and within the Senate also there is a lead that is shaved off from the Democrats, it's going to become a very difficult presidency for President Obama. Now, even if it goes through the Senate and then the House, etc., and becomes a bill or becomes law, I think there are likely to be conditionalities attached to it. Exactly something similar to what happened in the 80s, late 80s to 90, early 90, when again the US sanctioned Pakistan in February 1990 after the Soviet Union went back from Afghanistan. So I hope it doesn't happen. I hope it doesn't happen for the good of the relationship between the two countries. But there is all likelihood that if there is a possibility, when difficulties are made for the government of President Obama, he may not be able to actually push through what he's intending to do. Again, there are so many checks and systems within the government which actually are meant to squeeze the max to the advantage of the government of the US. Understandable, it's their money and they would like to spend it in the way that they wish to. So again, it's still very tactical. I mean, you know, military transactions, military aids, etc., are all very, very episodic. They're meant for a purpose, and this one is actually meant for a purpose, to fight the current ongoing war. So I hope the war will be done in about a year, year and a half, or a couple of years' time at the most. I hope so.
Actually, that's why my concern.
I might just add here to Marshall.
If he's done with this.
Yeah, go ahead with your point.
No, the point I'm trying to make it is that the war is right now. The US troops are likely to start withdrawing, or at least they will take a final decision in the policy discussion, which we'll come to just now, in this December.
Yes.
So waiting for 2012 to start off with that, don't you think it will be rather late?
That is what creates the misperceptions in the relationship, and that is what actually, look, the relationship between Pakistan and the US is those of two incompatibles. We can never look at a real strategic relationship between the two countries. Pakistan, unfortunately, is weakened internally so much that it has lost relevance even as a rational player at the global level. We need to first build up Pakistan from inside, gain the strength so that we become relevant to the world, and perhaps then we'll become relevant to the US also. I think those are the areas that we need attention. Those are the strategic areas, internal as well as external. That's the area that we're missing on. And so when you look at what US is giving you in terms of the Kerry Luger or the $2 billion, is still very, very much within the tactical domain and not strategic at all.
Right. Ambassador, you had a point.
Very briefly, I just wanted to add,
Sure.
you know, in support of what the Air Vice Marshal has been saying, which is that the possibility of conditionalities being attached. One of the conditionalities which will be attached, of course, is this question of military units which may have engaged in human rights violations. And this is going to strike many Pakistanis as being very ironic, to put it mildly, in view of all the WikiLeaks revelations about the human rights
in Iraq.
In Iraq and
I'm glad you brought it out. That is another sore point. What's your opinion on that?
Well, you see, as Vice Marshal Shahzad Saab said, that Pakistan has a lot of internal problems and needs to rationalize those problems in order to realize its potential in terms of its foreign relations and other relations and all. The same is, of course, true with the United States, because in the view of a huge majority of Pakistanis, the policies that it is following towards our region are not stability reinforcing. These are military-led policies, and you know, where there's the drone effects. Now, where they talk about drones being very accurate and all, but the trauma impact, the impact on people who are not directly targeted, but the humiliation, you know, our identity as a sovereign country, as a people who need to be consulted, and forcing the government to come up with all kinds of contortionate statements and all, pretending that they've been consulted or they haven't been consulted, or that they're protesting it.
In fact, to endorse your opinion, I would like to quote from a former US ambassador to Pakistan, Ryan W. Crocker, whose article came out that
Pakistan is not an enemy.
Pakistan is not, and he clearly says that the US should be praising Pakistan in public, and whatever reservations they have should be made in private. And of course, he mentions the drone attacks as well as the incursions and the negative effects of that.
That's right, because tactically they may have some value possibly, but strategically they do a whole lot of damage. And I know for a fact that from the region of North Waziristan, the number of trauma patients coming into Peshawar and the hospitals is huge. So because these explosions are huge, terrifying, and then they follow, and there are collateral damage, you know, which is a funny word to say, loss of innocent civilian life. Women and children and all. Now, we don't say those are deliberate, but those are as a result of almost negligence, or they don't rate high in the priority. You go after a home, you don't know who's there, maybe the target is there with his family or with others and all, and then the word spreads, and the manner in which it is received, and it makes it far, if you make the balance sheet of asset and liability, very much apart from the legal aspects.
Absolutely.
When Pakistan protests, it means it doesn't agree. If it doesn't agree, those attacks are illegal then.
True. So, Marshal, how do you look at it, especially in light of the fact that our foreign minister pointed out during his address there to the Harvard University that Pakistan has lost 7,000 lives in this, and these should be taken cognizance of instead of